And we welcome you to the Extraordinary Talk Show, a show to help you understand yourself and the world from a new perspective, and in the process, help you find your own personal extraordinary. And now your host for the Extraordinary Talk Show, Della Hill.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Extraordinary Talk Show. I love Mondays. I used to not love Mondays, and now Mondays are my favorite thing ever. Because I get to come here with you guys and share amazing, insightful tips that will hopefully help you change your life. And speaking of changing your life, I would love to introduce you to my friend, Kody Remala, who is my guest here on the show today. Kody has been a guest on my show today, but you might not recognize him because I had Kody on the show last in October. And Kody's definitely made some changes since that time. In fact, I almost didn't realize that it was October that kind of was a kickoff point for a lot of Kody's internal changes and progressions and things that he's gone through. So I want to spend some time and talk to my really, really good friend Kody about all the changes that he's gone through and some of the things that he has done to get there. So Kody, I'm going to throw you right on the spot.
Sounds great.
And can you tell us, I don't know, just since October, some of the changes that you've seen in your life?
Oh, man. My entire life has changed since October. I'm now right about 105 pounds down.
105 pounds. The reason I'm not more surprised is because I've been surprised along the whole journey. I've been surprised and delighted along with Kody every day when he's like, hey, it's another 5. First he's like, I'm at 30 pounds. I'm like, woohoo. Then he's at 50 pounds. I'm like, wow. And he's like, I'm at 80 pounds. And I'm going, what? Now Kody's at 105 pounds lost since October. Okay, I'm so glad you said that one first because it's such a huge one. I mean, like you've lost a small person. But I also know that there's so much more that's going on. And even that weight loss is really just an external symptom of everything that Kody's doing on the inside. So, okay, I interrupted you because I'm so excited about that one, but tell us some more of the changes.
Oh, absolutely. The number one change has probably been meditating every morning. But
okay, I'm going to interrupt again.
There's not been like one thing that's been the same since then.
So meditating is a thing that you do now that you didn't used to do. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And do you feel like meditation is a result of changes, or was it like a key to changes?
For me, it was part of the key that kind of kicked off everything. I mean, I've been really interested in quantum mechanics and brain states for a while, and that kind of helped me understand what was going on. But meditating really just kind of kicked everything off for me. It was the one thing that I still do every morning as one of the first things I do when I wake up. So, 100%. That's the main key to my weight loss was meditating every morning.
I love that. I know that's not the only thing you do every morning. What other things are you doing now every morning that you used to not do every morning?
So I've changed everything. So I've realized that there's this narrative that we tell ourselves every day when we wake up. And that narrative will, I mean, you've talked about it on your show here before, set your reticular activating system, or just tell your subconscious what to search for throughout the day. And so when I realized just what I was doing or wasn't doing, and just kind of this narrative that plays in everyone's head, it made me realize that I can take control of that I can actually start giving it a different signal and having a different result. And so instead of, a lot of Monday mornings, just like I think the majority of people wake up and say, oh man, I don't want to go to work this week. I don't want to be here. The weekend, why can't the weekend be longer? And then your subconscious starts searching for reasons that Monday is going to suck for those reasons. And there's an endless amount of reasons to to do that, right? And so changing that, and one thing like changing Monday to one translation was it's my day. And so Monday's mine. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to make it extraordinary. It's going to be my miracle Monday, And
so what you're doing, and I'm going to kind of throw in some of the words that I would probably use on my show, is you're setting, when you very first wake up in the morning, you're deciding what your belief system and your paradigm is going to be for that day. I love the term you use, narrative. that you decide when you wake up in the morning, this is my story today, and it's not going to go any other way. My day is only going to be amazing, right?
Exactly, 100%. There's a wonderful book about all this called The Miracle Morning, and it's basically the first 90 minutes of your day, whether we realize it or not, we're setting our subconscious to search for whatever that narrative is. And so there's 5 things I try to hit every morning, which is meditation, writing, reading, breathing, these just different, and most of these, which is really interesting, is keeping my brain into a deeper brain state for as long as possible. Basically introducing healing instead of inflammation into my body. And so, and the third and the fifth, which I've kind of been lacking, to be honest. I like to balance.
Well, hey,
sport
if
in the
you
morning.
lost 105 pounds without exercising very much, I think you're doing pretty good.
It's been wonderful. It's been kind of effortless, really.
It's been so much fun to watch you because it really does seem effortless from my perspective. And I know that you're really good about managing your nutrition. You are very, very particular. It wasn't just like you just jumped into any diet that seemed like a good idea. You really did a lot of research. And I know that you listen to podcasts constantly and you read books constantly, and you're super into Dave Asprey, who's all about biohacking. He's the bulletproof diet guy. And you do a lot of other things to manage your nutrition. But I've known you now for over 3 years now, right? And when we first met, you were managing your nutrition then. For the whole time I've known you, you've been kind of trying to eat better or manage your food better. And it didn't seem like any of those things really took and kept going until this time.
So I've always kind of been interested in nutrition. I've always been love learning and researching what my body does, what it responds to.
And it helps that your girlfriend is a dietitian.
Yes.
So she knows her stuff, and she's an amazing cook.
Yeah, having a girlfriend who has a degree in nutrition helps tremendously, and she's amazing at helping me with that. And so, but what's really interesting with all of it is I can't really define, because there's not just one thing, because everything started building upon each other. Like everything we do or put into our body, even light, tells our body a signal on one level or another. On the mitochondria level, which is what Dave talks about all the time, you're basically telling it to either be inflamed or to start healing. And realizing that everything, like for instance, a big thing I did, I would drink after work. And my narrative would be, man, it's been a long day. You deserve this drink. And it usually wasn't a lot or anything, but I don't drink at all now. I have nothing against drinking. I'm excited for the day when I will have a drink again. I don't know when it'll be. It'll be a surprise to even me. But it's just the narrative that I changed on, I deserve health. I deserve to thrive. And changing that narrative of not like, oh, I'm lacking alcohol. No, I'm gaining health. I'm gaining my life. I'm gaining so much more.
And I want to stop you before we get too far, because you said something really, really important, that you deserve health and you deserve, I think, wellness. I don't remember what else you said. Did that belief change for you? Tell me the before and after of that belief.
I would leave my health to circumstance. Most of what I had learned was simply diet and the way you move your body is how you achieve health, which is true, but there's so much more that builds on top of that was missed.
And did you feel, and I want to ask this because of the way you phrased it, did you feel prior to this journey that maybe you didn't deserve to be in good health and to have a strong, healthy body?
It's an interesting question. Wouldn't say that I wouldn't feel like I didn't deserve. Well, yeah, I guess I would say that with what I was inputting in my body, my brain function was pretty much just in a constant survival mode. So I mean, I would lie to myself and say like, oh, I ate some lettuce today. I'm actually pretty healthy, but not thinking, well, yeah, I also had all this unhealthy stuff, right? And so I think on a subconscious level, I would be telling myself, well, why would you be healthy, dude? You've been doing all this dumb stuff, And I think we all know that, and we beat ourselves up for that. And that's another huge thing is being gentle with yourself too, not beating yourself up for the crap you have done, but just looking at your actions and the results of your actions, and observing yourself and changing what you want to change.
And was it a difficult transformation to go from the belief that you're unhealthy and that's probably what you deserve to going to actually wanting and desiring to be healthy and having a belief that not only could you and should you, but you were worthy and deserving of it? And did you realize you were making that change when you did it? But as you're telling me, it sounds like your entire narrative changed from kind of understanding food and wanting to be good about it, but not really driving into it very much. And then all of a sudden kind of actually caring about yourself and wanting to give yourself good nutrition.
Well, and really a switch just kind of flipped for me. Somehow meditating and going to these deeper brain states and understanding what chemicals were being released throughout my body, what different brain states meant, and really how to change this narrative. I mean, really, circumstance has zero meaning. Like, there is nothing in life that has any meaning at all to it. Only the narrative that we tell ourselves about that circumstance.
It has the meaning that we give it. But even the meaning we give it isn't going to be the same meaning that someone else gives it.
It only exists in our perspective, right? And
good, bad, pretty, beautiful, ugly, whatever. It's all only, I mean, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I think that people miss that a lot when we realize that anything is in the eye of the beholder and only there.
And yeah, it's only in my perspective. My perspective only exists in my world. And so I can tell myself about everything, especially myself, whatever I want. And so too often I was accepting what other people's version of me was. That is, I would, somehow have a belief that wasn't from me. It just didn't exist in my choices. So if I never,
but yet you accepted it. Maybe it was a belief that was put on you, or one that you believed was put on you, so you just took it.
Yes, 100%. And I believe that's kind of what childhood is these series of wave collapses where we actually take on other people's belief or viewpoint of what we should or shouldn't be doing. And
that's how our paradigms are built.
Exactly.
In those first 5 to 7 years of childhood, and we live those paradigms the rest of our life unless we retrain them.
And if we never ask ourselves, like, where did this come from? Is this still serving me? Then we are living according to someone else's paradigm our entire lives.
Right. There's a quote that I can't think of right now, but I think it's by maybe Steve Jobs, that he talks about dogma is living according to someone else's expectations. And I know I completely skewered that, but I love that quote because it kind of spelled out for me, hey, you don't have to live the way that somebody else wants you to. Just because everybody else that lives in the town that you live in the state that you live in the country that you live in, kind of does things this way, doesn't mean you have to. If those things don't serve you, you don't have to use them.
Exactly. And I mean, isn't average just another word for normal anyway?
And normal's just a setting on the dryer, and who wants to be a setting on the dryer?
Exactly. And average, I mean, if I look at average across the board on anything, especially in like hospitals and stuff, if like we're being tested against the average, well, the average is dying. Like, they're not testing for health. They're testing for, are you sick enough to be on medication? I don't want to be the average. I want to be the extraordinary, I want to be the abnormal. And so this whole narrative that we start telling ourselves is, I mean, Wim Hof, and I would just listen to a body speaking to Dave and Bulletproof Radio.
And for those who don't know, I've mentioned Wim Hof before. He's a super cool guy who has trained his body to not worry if it's cold or not. So this guy has literally climbed Mount Everest in shorts and barefoot.
Not only has he climbed Mount Everest shorts and barefoot, but there's a podcast. His name was Scott. I'll send it to you so you can include it in the link for your show here. But
Thanks for that.
absolutely. And he went and he basically studied Wim and was just like, man, this guy is a madman. I don't know if I believe him. He's going to get people killed. So he decided to go and check this out. And he's a journalist and look into it. But not only did Wim Hof do that, but he taught this guy within a week to be able to train his body by putting in different signals to be able to hike up a crazy ice cold mountain wearing nothing but a bathing suit.
And, you know, I also want to tell you, Kody, because this is something that you and I have talked about, because there's some things that I'm really good at. There's a lot of skills that I'm developing and working on really well. And I'm definitely have a lot more skills and stronger in a lot of areas than I did a few years ago. But when it comes to being comfortable in the cold, I am not there. I do not like the cold.
Well, and what's really interesting, and one thing I actually even wanted to talk to you about is that the narrative is so strong within us that we know that cold does not actually exist where we think it does, because it doesn't exist on your skin. It exists within your brain and what you're telling yourself about that. Meaning we can rewire our association with that, and whenever we feel that sensation, it can actually bring us joy. It takes work, certainly, but it's completely up to us to actually change what that literally feels like.
Right. And I know that that's something that you wish I would work harder on, because there's times when it's cold outside and you'll go, hey, let's go hang out outside. And I'm like, it's cold outside. We're not hanging out outside right now. And you're always very, very compassionate. But there's times you've laughed and you said, Della, you know, we need to work on your relationship with the cold. Because there's a lot of things I'm working on getting better at, but that is not one that I have felt. That's not one I've wanted to be uncomfortable about. That's the thing, is because change requires discomfort. You have to step outside of your comfort zone to be able to change. And for me, that comfort zone means stepping outside of a warm house into a cold outside. And that's very uncomfortable for me. And that's a place that I'm not quite ready to go there yet, but maybe I'm getting ready to be able to go there.
Well, and what's really cool is what I'm realizing. This guy, when he went to Wim Hof's camp, went up to Poland, and you know, this is the winter that stopped the German Nazi army, to put in perspective. And he shows up, and there's this guy outside wearing pretty much nothing but a bathing suit, getting, you know, snow thrown on him, and he is able to raise his temperature enough that steam is coming off this guy. And they're like, do this for like 10 minutes. So this guy just steaming and able to completely not only control, but raise his body temperature. I mean, you've heard the stories of Wim Hof being able to raise his body temperature while they're trying to put in the ice in the water, and like they can't put in enough ice because he keeps melting it. And so realizing that it's even less of being comfortable in a warm house and really taking control of our brains, because that cold doesn't actually exist where we think it exists. And that's what's fascinating to me. I think that's really where I started to thrive, was just realizing how much power my brain and the brain states and what I tell myself about different circumstances and events actually mean or actually are.
So continuing with that, what are some other narratives that you've changed since you started this whole process? I didn't ask you this ahead of time, so you're probably not prepared for that one. So I'm throwing that one on you.
So the everything has changed. You know, waking up every morning, the first 90 minutes of what I'm telling myself is changed. But I mean, there's even simple little things like when I take my vitamins now.
But you don't call them vitamins, do you?
Nope.
So what do you call them when you take them?
They're my abundance pills.
Abundance pills. I love that. You got to get your abundance pills every day, and that probably makes sure you don't ever miss, because you're like, ooh, yeah, you could miss your vitamins, but you're never going to miss your abundance pills.
As soon as I started calling them that, it's definitely more consistent, and doing like a little meditation, because they've done studies that when you even think about so your brain cannot tell the difference between thought and reality. So when you're thinking about abundance, when you're thinking about prosperity, when you're thinking about miracles, if you are literally doing a little meditation and thinking about those things as these are going into your body, then your body is going to respond and such. So, I mean, even there, is it Dr. I can't remember his name, the one that did the Secret Lives of Water. And I know you don't think I'm crazy, but a lot
Emoto, Dr. Emoto?
Yeah, Emoto. And in the water, have photographs of love and hate being talked and taped to these petri dishes and different experiments on songs and the vibration of simply water as it's freezing. And they form, as you know, the most beautiful crystals when we just put love into it. And so for me, all these little things started emerging, and I'm like, oh, I'm not drinking water, I'm drinking my life source. And if even water that's been through a crazy experience and piped into our house and have this crazy vibration, simply by talking love into it, completely changes what it's doing to your body, especially on the mitochondria level, right? Or the quantum level, if you will. And
water is something that I work with a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. It's so easy to work with water. People don't even realize it. And I've talked about Dr. Emoto on the show before, but Dr. Emoto took different waters, or a bottle of water, a bunch of different bottles of water, and he had people pray over them and either pray love or even wrote the word hate on the bottle and different things. And then he froze all this water and took pictures of the crystallization. And you can clearly see the ones that were blessed with love and compassion, and those things are just beautiful crystals, and all the ones that were negativity or hate or things like that are just blah and kind of formless and not pretty at all. So what that tells us is what we're saying to our water matters to our bodies. And since you're right, that is our life source, we might as well put some positivity into it. And it's so easy to do that because you can just take your bottle of water and write love or abundance on it, and it's automatically going to work for that. But what I've also found, and I think that I'm trying to add to what you do, when you do your meditation, when you take your pills in the morning, that doesn't mean that you sit down and cross your legs and go hum every time you take a pill. What I'm guessing that you do is that you probably, as you take them, you feel the feeling of your body being strong and healthy or something like that, right? Because you have to introduce emotion and feeling to thought in order to have the fullness come out of it.
So yeah, basically I take a pill and I just mentally say, this is my abundance pills. This is going into my body, it's going into every cell, and it's making me better in every single way. And I envision it going into my bodies and getting broken apart and, enriching every single cell in my body. And do I think that's gonna cure cancer? I mean, well, maybe if I had cancer, but I do think that it makes such a huge difference, just that mindset, for me, yes, I believe I can make everything better in my body by this whole system of abundance and happiness and prosperity.
And we only have 2 minutes left, so I want to ask you this one, really important too. How has your relationship with your body changed?
Oh, that one's been huge too. I believe it's probably on this show that I saw you talking about having a conversation with your body, and I started doing that. And one thing I started doing was I started looking myself in the eye and telling myself that I loved me, which I'd never done before.
That can be a really, really difficult thing to do if you haven't done it before.
It was strange at first. It was weird. Now it's normal. Now I catch myself in the mirror all the time and tell myself how awesome I am.
Send in a wink.
Just because I really, really wanted to change the narrative about me. And so that was one of the most important things. So I sat down, I had a conversation with my body, and I said, hey, I'm gonna start giving you the stuff you need to thrive. And in return, we're going to thrive. We're going to thrive together, And I was very fortunate with having a great job that I actually did get a lot of exercise out when I was at. I mean, even now at my job, I am too. But that narrative has been so huge, and just having that talk with my body and that relationship with my body. Now we're good. Now we love each other, Whereas before, I only saw the defects. The stuff that was good, it just kind of didn't matter because I was only focusing, I only had set my reticular activating system to see the negative. So that's all I was focusing on.
Right. And one thing that I think is really important too is you didn't wait for your body to change to have that conversation, right? Like you looked in the mirror 105 pounds ago and said, listen, buddy, we're going to do this together.
Exactly.
And that's when it started. You didn't wait until you lost 105 pounds to look in the mirror and say, hey, man, I love you. That's how you started.
Exactly.
Losing 105 pounds, and that's pretty fantastic. Okay, we have 30 seconds, and I want you to answer this question. How do you, this is your question, how do you show up with compassion every day in your life?
How do I show up with compassion? So my goal every day is to show up with empathy, compassion, and understanding. And that's the filter that I literally put on before I leave my house and before I go into work. So it's just a little meditation I do. And I literally say that I am empathy, I am compassion, I am understanding, which are the elements of love.
That is fantastic. And that is how we're going to end our show, is with all of the elements of love, with empathy and compassion. And thanks so much for being with me again, Kody, and I'm going to have you back soon. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
You've been listening to The Extraordinary Talk Show with Della Hill. Search YouTube and Facebook, Spotify, or Podbean for video and podcasts of this show, or go to radiostgeorge.com. We'll see you next week for another edition of The Extraordinary Talk Show.
Kate.
Hi, this is Della with The Extraordinary Talk Show. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and check out some more of the amazing videos that we have to share with you.